Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals to shape their careers. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. Dear listeners, in this episode, we will dwell into the secrets of becoming a CEO. To know more, let us go through the journey of an IT leader who rose up to the rank of a CEO, and we are pleased to welcome Kiran to our show today.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks Naveen and Sudhakar for hosting.
Thank you, Kiran. Post his master's in engineering, Kiran Kuchimanchi started his professional journey in late 90s as an engineer and has grown through the ranks to be an executive vice president customer success in a leading IT services company based out of Hyderabad, India. As part of his responsibility as global delivery head, Kiran was involved with various customer engagements, being on-site in the US, in Asia Pacific region, and also remotely managing the delivery from India. With his teams spread across the globe to focus on customer centricity, Kiran strived for the delivery excellence. In his new avatar, Kiran is the CEO of a company focusing on both niche products and services in latest cutting-edge technologies, focusing on artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics, Internet of Things, in addition to social, mobile, analytics, cloud, etc., etc. Let us hear from the CEO's perspective on how to become one. Kiran, let us get into our conversation. To begin with, how important is it for students and young professionals to understand the concepts of technology and related topics?
Great question, Sudhakar. Thanks for asking me. Firstly, once again, would like to thank both of you for inviting me to this conversation. It's a great honor to be sharing my thoughts with you as well as the audience that you got for this podcast. I've heard some of the previous podcasts and it's fantastic to get an industry view on various topics that you're covering. Specifically to answer your question, Sudhakar, I think increasingly I'm seeing that a lot of students focus on academics in general. I think it's good. It's great to be doing extremely well as part of their curriculum. But it is what I've also noticed is that they miss the industry perspective. They miss the application of what they're learning in the real world scenario, knowing about that. I think that is where there is a lot of gap today in the current teaching in the academic world. What many companies are trying to do is to try and help the academia bridge this gap. In my opinion, it is important for students to try and not just learn from what they are going through in the books and through their classes and professors that they get taught by, but to connect with the broader industry, network with people. Today in this world, every topic, you should be able to find answers to every topic across the internet. It's probably best for them to try and understand as to what's going on with the world. It's important for them to be able to understand a topic by going through YouTube, by going through various other sources that they've got access to, by again talking to a lot of other people in the industry as well, so that they get a whole-rounded or well-rounded picture about it.
Thank you, Kiran. That is really helpful. Application of what you learned, definitely that is something that our students and young professionals should be focusing on. Now that we talked about the technology aspect, Kiran, what is the importance of networking in the professional world? We say that you should identify someone as your mentor, follow that mentor. Sometimes we get to hear that you need to have the broader perspective rather than deeper perspective. So how can networking help in acquiring the needed knowledge and skills to focus on one's growth?
So like I said, I think it's important to know the concepts. It's important to know the theory behind everything that they get to see and get to hear from the various academics that they have. But it's also important to understand the application of that, like you also said, in the real world scenario. So my view is that networking is the means by which they actually get to understand as to how and what they learn is actually applied in the real world scenario. Students get to do that by just speaking to people, by just understanding about whatever they're learning, how that's been applied in the real world scenario. See, in my opinion, the learning doesn't end in the classrooms. Learning doesn't end with whatever they finish off in the classrooms. It goes beyond that. It's about being able to use that information that they learn, see how that is actually being applied in the real world scenario. And that is only possible by way of networking, by way of talking to multiple other people, getting their perspective as well, and then factoring that into what they're learning to be able to then evolve that further and further again. So that's, I think, the way to learn. The future is all about being able to continuously learn, and networking is a great means. Talking to different people is a great means to enhance your knowledge on a specific topic beyond what you just learned through books and other means.
Getting into networking and expanding networking from young age might definitely benefit someone in the long run. So that's very well said, Kiran. And there is a quote by Oprah Winfrey, and which goes by, "The greatest discovery of all times is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude," right? So how do you think having right attitude will help someone in their career?
Fantastic question. I think in general, my view is that people respond to fundamental emotions like love, respect, etc. I think attitude is one of those fundamental emotion. In my opinion, irrespective of how much knowledge you gain, it's about being able to carry that right attitude throughout your life. That usually makes a lot of difference. So having the right attitude, being authentic, first of all, be yourself, try not to be someone else. Each one got their own gifts. They have a unique gift that no one else has. So try and not copy someone else. Be yourself, be authentic, that is. And then work hard in your life. Try to achieve something. Have a purpose in life, purpose that you are passionate about. Communicate that purpose to the rest of the world, to the rest of your colleagues. Work hard and then eventually build trust. These are, in my opinion, fundamental emotions that the world generally responds to, beyond obviously what you know and how you can help someone else as well. So I think carrying a right attitude with these set of core emotions is extremely important, in my opinion, to be able to build a successful career.
That's again a wonderful point, Kiran. It also reminds me another quote by Simon Sinek, who says, "You don't hire for skills, you hire for attitude."
Absolutely.
Because the skills can be taught, however, attitude cannot be taught. So moving on, what's your advice to the current generation? Like, is it better to focus on breadth of various domains or focusing on depth of a single domain?
Yeah, in the connected world that we live in, I think it's important for everyone to develop a well-rounded view about the world that they live in. So you're no longer in a state where you just can focus on one area of your interest and try and still be relevant to the world that you live in. It is extremely important to try and focus on gaining a breadth of knowledge around various topics, the business environment in the world today, the economy that you're living in, picking up a sport, whatever else that generally goes on across the world. It's important to develop a well-rounded perspective about everything else that goes on. But it is also equally important to try and understand your passion, try and understand what you're extremely good at, and develop deep domain and deep tech skills in that specific area to be able to then pursue that as your dream in the long run. In my opinion, picking up one area that you really are passionate about, getting deep into that area, understanding everything about it as much as you can, and then at the same time try and develop a well-rounded view about everything else in the world that goes on today, because you're not in any manner independent in this world today. It's a very, very connected world, and it's extremely important, like I said, to develop a well-rounded worldview as well. So a lot of breadth of knowledge across various things that goes on, plus extremely good at probably one of few areas of your interest that you're passionate about. That's, in my opinion, what students should strive for in the future.
Thank you, Kiran, on that overall perspective. I know you are very focused on your fitness, Kiran. In your view, how does it help someone from both physical and mental fitness standpoint?
Yeah, this is most of the time that I spend now talking to people. It's about usually these two topics. It's about being mentally fit. It's about being physically fit. I think as long as you have both these, being mentally fit and being physically fit. I think as long as you have a good grasp or you're good at it, good at these two things. I think there is no limit to what you can achieve. Just to give you a perspective, in my opinion, this generation is probably going to live longer than any other previous generations that have lived on this earth, on this planet. And being mentally fit and physically fit is an extremely important element towards being able to achieve what they want to achieve. Oftentimes I see that, particularly in our field, in the IT services, in the IT information technology space, in the technology space in general, people tend to sit long hours behind their desks. They don't get as much activity, physical activity, as they should ideally get. If you look at our ancestors, they probably spent a lot of time in the fields and farming and hunting and doing all that stuff, getting all the physical activity that they required. But whereas this generation and the future generations are probably going to be spending a number of hours sitting at either their houses or sitting at offices behind a desk and doing a lot of non-physical activity-based work. That means we are probably going to be not as fit as we probably were in the past as part of our previous generations. I think it's extremely important, therefore, that people are physically fit, mentally fit. And by mentally being fit, what I mean is that you got to be introspecting. You got to be evaluating the actions that you've done. You got to be understanding what you're good at, what you're bad at. Try and focus on the areas that you're not so good at and improve those skills. Being able to look yourself as someone outside your own self, evaluating yourself as a third person, and being able to then look at your actions from that perspective and constantly improving and constantly striving for that element of perfection is something that I think is possible only by process of meditation, by the process of introspection, etc., which is part of the whole journey towards being mentally fit and physically fit.
So Kiran, we talked about physical and mental fitness. Being the CEO of this company which is dealing with the latest niche technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT and all, what is the role of technology that you think in these opportunities about fitness?
Wow, I think I'll answer the question in two parts. I think the world's moving to a different level altogether. I think AI is definitely going to fundamentally transform our living. I think it's probably the last invention that we as human beings will make, and then it'll probably be a self-evolutionary cycle beyond that. I think if you're seeing what's happening, self-driving cars are going to be the norm in some time. Over the last few days, this was on Friday, I think a company revealed a mechanism to actually implant chips in your brain and be able to communicate with your brain directly over airwaves. They've actually shown an implant live, which sort of read the activity within the brain, and that was able to relay that into a computer. So in the future, people should be able to hear music directly without having an external device. They should directly into your brain. People who probably do not have the ability to hear sounds, etc., should be able to hear them as well in the future through this new kinds of implants. So I think the overall phenomena of artificial intelligence, machine learning that's happening today cannot be undermined. It's, like I said, it's going to fundamentally transform everything that we do in the future. So I think this is probably the last invention. We are entering into a world which is going to be exciting, powered by AI, going everything beyond what we've accomplished so far. So I think that's, in my opinion, is what everyone should focus on. All the students of the future, even if they are not directly dealing with anything in this space, they should definitely be understanding as to what's happening in this space.
That's quite interesting stuff, Kiran. Now, coming to the habit of reading, how reading has helped you personally, and how do you think reading can help someone in changing their perspective and also contributing to both personal and professional growth?
Great question. All of us are products of our past experiences. So what we learn through our past experience is what we manifest in our daily lives, or there is some amount of influence of what we learn in our past lives that is going to play a role in how we behave, how we respond to situations that we're faced with. So, in my opinion, reading gives you the ability to try and understand a different perspective altogether, try and understand a perspective that comes from a third person, which then gets factored into your own thinking. And as you start learning from this process, you try and use that perspective as well to make decisions that you have to make in the future. So, I think reading has played an important part, at least in my life, to be able to get that different perspective when I start dealing with situations that I face on a daily basis. Not just as a CEO, not just as a senior person in the organization, but just as a human being, to be able to respond to your kids when you're faced with a certain scenario, to be able to respond to your different situations that you face at your workplace, and to be able to factor those perspectives, different perspectives, other people's perspectives is extremely important. And you develop that by way of getting into the minds of some of these people who write some interesting books. I've been inspired by quite a few people. Yuval Noah Harari is one of my favorite authors. He's written a few books like Sapiens and 21 Lessons for 21st Century. These are two really good books that I enjoyed reading. Another book that I really got inspired from is about how we think. There's something called a System 1 thinking and System 2 thinking. This is a book written by a person called Daniel Kahneman. The book is called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. I would recommend everyone to learn that because it sort of explains our own biases as we deal with the world. It explains how our rational brain starts thinking at two different levels, what's called a System 1 thinking and what's called a System 2 thinking. So yeah, I think to summarize what I tried to communicate, developing different perspectives by sort of understanding how these people are trying to, how the different authors are trying to understand this world, and incorporating that perspective into your own journey as you sort of make decisions in a daily life, as you start dealing with the world in your daily life, is an important element towards being able to respond back.
I think those are great titles, Kiran. In fact, I have also come across so many people recommending those questions, but unfortunately we couldn't hit it so far, but I'm definitely going to buy them. And thanks for sharing those books. Can you shed some light on your career journey? Like, how did you scale up to a level of CEO? And what are some of the tips that someone can take from you and whoever is aspiring to get into the C-suite? And we talked about attitude already, and we covered aspects of physical, mental fitness. Anything else that you think of?
Well, I've always put more importance on learning at various points, at every point in my career, in fact. It was never about job title. It was never about the pay package. It was always about the amount of learning that I was going to get. And as long as you constantly chase that learning, the ability to get to know something exciting, the opportunity to do something exciting, I think that was more what I was always looking for. I would request everyone to start thinking about their own lives in that manner. Beyond a certain limit, beyond a certain stage, money and fame and all of that stop bothering, or they don't matter that much to you anymore. You're trying to learn, and how much you're trying to contribute towards the development of society. How much are you helping the others achieve their own goals? These are things that matter to me a lot more, and these are always things that have mattered to me more than, like I said, the worldly things that you normally get access to. So my advice to people is to try and keep constantly learning, try and find ways to impact the lives of others through their own mechanisms and means, and that has always proved to be successful to me. That has always been my mantra in life.
That's interesting, Kiran. We talked about attitude, you talked about learning as a philosophy, and we covered the physical and mental fitness. Just changing gears, I'm little interested to know about your company, which is called RoundSqr. There is this idiom, square peg in a round hole. Is it anyway linked, or has that influenced you in naming your company?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that. I think that was definitely the inspiration that we looked upon when we started looking for the names of the company. We were very fascinated by what Apple had achieved. Like I said in the past throughout the conversation, it is always about the purpose. It is always about the passion that you're after. We think that we are different. We are a company that we believe has some of the best talent in the AI, machine learning, blockchain areas. So the name itself came from, like you said, Apple's ad that was released in 1997. This is about the round pegs and square holes. Yes, you're right. That's the inspiration behind the name of the company. Anything specific that you would like to know about the company itself?
Yeah, why not, Kiran? I'm sure our audience also would love to understand more about the offerings that RoundSqr is providing to the larger community. We already talked about some of the niche technologies. Any specific thing that you would want to highlight that happened in the recent past about any niche skill, any special treatment, any of that?
Sort of applications of AI ML continues to baffle me. We're having some very interesting conversations with our prospects across the globe. We serve markets primarily in the US, Europe, and Australia at this point in time. Obviously, would like to expand beyond that as well at some point in time in the future. But these are our three primary markets. The kind of work that we're doing for some of our customers, like I said, in the ML space continues to baffle me. There are certain customers of ours who are fundamentally changing how people get into their jobs, etc. We're now talking about bots, artificial intelligent bots that can sort of recruit people depending on the kind of requirement a company has, being able to identify the right kind of skill sets that an aspiring individual will have or can have to be able to then apply for that job and be relevant for that job as well. So exciting technology that we're working on right now. Similarly, another company that we work with is a company that is essentially trying to help students that are orphans that have gotten sidelined because of various reasons. People who have taken to drugs, students who have taken to drugs, students who have taken to bad ways of dealing in life because of various personal reasons, and how we can help technology to try and revive them. So these are some interesting use cases that we're working on as we speak.
Great to know, Kiran. The current technology that is in the evolution stage are really baffling, and the application of those technologies are evolving on every day basis, if not more frequently. So from the Guiding Voice team, we really wish RoundSqr all the very best, and we thank you for accepting our invitation despite your other commitments. It was indeed a great conversation on knowing the secrets of becoming a CEO. I'm sure our audience will get inspired by your journey and the insights and tips that you shared. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kiran. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It is a pleasure being on this call and pleasure being able to share some of my views with everyone else.
Dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media, or feel free to email us, and we will be happy to share further details with you.
All right. So it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about mouse. Mouse made the usage of computer very, very easy and handy. It is difficult to imagine computing without mouse. And back in 1964, Doug Engelbart invented the first ever computer mouse. And back then, it was made out of wood. It was rectangular and featured a little button on the top right. He called it a mouse because the card coming out of the back reminded him of the tiny rodents. Interesting, isn't it? If you'd like to share any trivias, please feel free to share them through email. And our email address is theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com, or SMS us or text us at India number 9494587187. We will not only share best trivias in future episodes, we will also announce your names. Again, we are open for suggestions on topics that you would like to hear from us through our email address. Our email address is theguidingvoice4u@gmail.com. You may also WhatsApp us on our India number 9494587187. Like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/theguidingvoice4u, or follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guidingvoice. To stay tuned about our future episodes. We are also available on Instagram as The Guiding Voice for You. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/The Guiding Voice. There is more in store. Until next time, have a wonderful time. Thank you for listening. Take care and be safe.